So this is my week 5 reflection paper on social class. In the spring quarter, I had a CSE 123 exam early into the week. It was on a Tuesday. And the night before, I was working a closing shift at Uniqlo, which was one of my two regular shifts that I took on each week. Along with that, I also worked both weekends. So like a total of like 20 hours or so. On top of trying to study for the exam, my assignments were also piling up from other classes. By the time the exam came around, I was exhausted, not from one thing, but from the load of tasks I had that were stacked on top of each other. During this time, I remember my friends talking about the exam, and that they were talking with a kind of ease and confidence which I didn't have. They hadn't worked the night before like I did. They had time to study, to sleep, to prepare in a way that I hadn't been able to. I was barely hanging on by a thread, and they didn't seem to be carrying the same weight. This wasn't a one-time thing. My family lives in a low-income housing, and my father is the sole provider. I started working in high school, first at a milk tea shop called Jifang, then at an ice cream shop in Pike Place, and now alongside it at a retail store called Uniqlo. I took on these part-time jobs during the school year and during the whole year too to support myself, my family, and my own education. At UW, my Monday and Tuesday shifts were fixed, which means there had been multiple times which I couldn't hang out with friends or had to skip something because of work. It's just part of the norm for me and how my schedule had to work. What made this manageable, though, is that most of my close friends at UW come from a similar background, that they're low income and first generation too. And they also have to work to make ends meet while receiving an education. I didn't have to explain the exhaustion to them the way I might have to someone who's never had to choose between an exam or a shift. There's a kind of recognition that happens without needing much to be said. I don't feel out of place with them the way I sometimes do around classmates whose lives don't require the same balancing. Oh, this connects to some of this week's resources. The resource on how chronic stress tied to income shows a pattern close to what I experienced that week. My exhaustion that wasn't just because of one exam, but also because of the financial pressure alongside school. Kazan's piece on not being able to afford sleep reflects a similar dynamic since my shifts directly cut into the rest time, which my classmates didn't have to sacrifice. Kelly's discussion of racial capitalism as a broader frame connecting my individual experience of working through school to a larger pattern of who is expected to labor for their education and who isn't. Looking back at that week, I don't think of it as a dramatic low point in my life, but more of just one clear example of something that happens regularly. What stays with me is a contrast, not resentment towards my friends who didn't work, but a clear sense of how different our starting points were for the same exam.